Welcome to Echoes of the Past, bringing you memories, musings and ramblings from a time long since gone. I'm Deb, and I would be honoured if you would join me today as I revisit Lillie and Son, Hillcrest, KwaZulu-Natal. Not to be confused with Lil's, Lily's was located on the corner of Stonewall Road and the Old Main Road, most often frequented by us on our way home from school in the 1980s. Lily's was run by a lady called Shirley and her husband. Shirley had started her career as a young girl at Christian's in the centre of Hillcrest in the 1970s. Being a frequent customer of Christian's, a friendship had developed between my mum and Shirley. So when Shirley and her husband, who had also worked for Christian's, took over Lily's, we started shopping with them as often as we could. Around 1980, Mum got her driving licence. Before that, Dad would take me to Pinetown Convent on his way down to work in Durban, and would leave work early in the afternoons to fetch me from school. After Mum passed her test, she bought a wee Austin Apache, complete with red leather seats, which she named Tushy. And with that, Mum took over pickups. Tushy was perhaps best described as a cute, lethal relic masquerading as a car. Every journey an exhilarating adventure, the likes of which can only be compared to repeatedly confronting one's own mortality, especially when driven down Springside Road or Fields Hill. All that said, Tushy was Mum's freedom, and in her, equipped with the highest heels, prettiest dresses, perfect hair and makeup, an obligatory cigarette in hand, Mum owned the road. Free to shop when and where she wanted, she chose Lily's most often. Practically every afternoon we stopped there to pick up a box of Benson & Hedges special mild cigarettes, milk, a newspaper for Dad, and occasionally a treat for my brother and I. Almost without exception, my brother chose a Fanta grape, mainly on account of the fact that no one liked it, including himself, but the flavour guaranteed that he wouldn't have to share it with anyone. Most often I chose a comic, or as I grew older, a magazine. One afternoon in the early 1980s, it might even have been 1980, we stopped at Lily's on the way home from school as usual. On this occasion I stayed in the car with my little brother, whilst Mum dashed in to pick up the usual supplies. At this time I'd become very fond of acting, having private drama classes with a lady called Mrs. Vors at her home in Westville. Mrs. Vors also happened to be our school drama teacher at Pinetown Convent. I mention this because I can only assume that what happened next was in some way related. On returning to the car, Mum passed my brother his Fanta grape and handed me a magazine. The letters S, T, A, G were boldly scrawled across the front cover. I can only imagine that Mum saw an E at the end of the word and assumed a rather different subject matter to the one she had actually bought. To her dying days I never told her about the content of the magazine, or that I had only opened it as far as the first page, or that in panic I buried it in the newly built garage that afternoon. A favourite weekly activity of Dad's was to leave the car at home and walk to the shops, specifically Lily's, because at 2 kilometres from home it was the closest shop to us. Even in his mid to late 50s, Dad was an active man. A red beret in the Second World War, a 1948 British Olympic Reserve swimmer, a keen cricketer and footballer. Dad never walked anywhere. He marched with purpose. By the time we had purposefully marched the length and hills of Springside Road, we were both exhausted, making the return journey beyond either of us. The routine was to nip into Lily's, buy us both an ice cream and can of Coke before asking Shirley if we could use the shop phone. We had just enough time to finish our ice creams before Mum would pull up outside the shop in Tushy and drive us home giggling all the way because she warned us every time not to go too far. Remember, Jerry, you have to walk home. As the years passed, Tushy ceased to function, despite frequent trips to Dennis Linden's garage, which was across the road from Lily's. At the time, Smurfs had become something of a craze, and Dennis quite ingeniously sold them, from what I remember, as the waiting room. Each visit, Mum bought me another character, and quickly I found myself with an enviable collection. Eventually, after a catastrophic gearbox failure, Dad took the car off the road, and a white Golf GTI was purchased as a replacement. But so heartbroken by the demise of Tushy was Mum that she never drove the Golf. By this time, Dad had opened his own business and worked entirely from a purpose-built office in the garage. So pick-up and drop-offs were resumed by Dad, and our daily adventures with Mum and Tushy ceased forever. That isn't to say that we no longer frequented Lily's, we most certainly did. Dad stopped there every afternoon to pick up a paper and cigarettes. Only the trips were less of an adventure than they had been previously, and my Smurf collection came to an end. In the same block as Lily's, next to where the old fish and chip shop had been, was a general store. It was owned by the parents of a girl in my class at Pinetown Convent called Kerry. I think we were in Standard 3 at the time. We had become good friends, and on occasions Kerry would come home with us from school and stay until her parents closed the store for the night. And on a couple of occasions I spent the afternoon with Kerry in the store. I recall it being a very exciting place, with sweets and goodies everywhere. A favourite treat from Kerry's shop was a bag of roast chicken flavoured chips, a can of cream soda, and a red and white Coca-Cola yo-yo. The humble yo-yo, another craze that brought countless hours of delight to children of Hillcrest in the 1980s, Kerry and I being no exception. I do wish I could remember Kerry's surname, but time has erased so much. Kerry, if you come across this video, please do reach out. It would be wonderful to have the chance to reconnect after so many years. I hope you have enjoyed this little bit of nostalgia. If you would like to see more of my videos, please press the like button, subscribe and hit that bell. If you have friends or family who might appreciate this content, please share it out. And if you have any memories of Lily's, I would love to hear them. Share them with us in the chat below. Your comments might help someone else recall a precious memory of their own. Until the next time, keep your memories close, but keep those around you closer. Deb out.